The Graphic Histories Podcast.
I got bitten by a radioactive bug. I tried an experimental drug. Went up for a stroll on a gamma testing range. I found an enchanted hurricane. I made a serum that made me small. I modified the serum so it would make me tall. Radioactive isotope in my eyes. Dying alien helped me accessorize. I gained the proportion and strength of a spider. Now I'm invincible and I can fly. I lost my sight, my other senses were heightened. I'm gonna put on my pajamas and go fight crime.
Hey, and welcome to the Graphic Histories Podcast. My name is André. I am your gentle host, and you are my gentle listener. Thanks again for tuning in, and thanks to Ukla the Mock, former guest of the show, for our theme song, Superpowers. Very happy to be back. Sorry for the delay. I wish I had a good excuse as to why this episode was on a Monday release instead of my customary Friday, but that excuse being my life has been insanely busy as of late, and it's just going to get busier, and I'm a little worried about the history of the show, and not keeping up with the quality standards that I have done so well. But, you know, it was easier to do that when COVID was happening because I wasn't doing jack shit, you know, mostly. Sat around, talked to people online. In the previous iteration of the show, I would do these histories of comic characters, and that was always fun, but, you know, I had a lot of time to do that, and I am trying to get my scheduling better so that I can not leave you hanging, as it were. Hopefully you forgive me. There's no ill will, resentment, if you will. But yes, this episode will be airing on a Monday instead of the usual Friday. That reason being because I honestly just plumb forgot. I had already recorded the episode. I was going to mix it. Add the intro, add the outro, put it on the website, get it set up to go. Do the graphics for social media. However, I just forgot. And I think it's because life has been a little too busy and I need to figure out a way to slow it down a bit. Hopefully I can do that in the next little while. But thankfully, I do have other guests lined up to record, so there shouldn't be any breaks in that. And I'm also thinking maybe a Monday release is better anyway. You know, Friday kind of comes just for the weekend. Most people are doing things. Might be hard to tune in right away, but Monday, kind of start of the week, fresh start. So, yeah, maybe I'm making a snap decision right here, right now, with you, gentle listener, tuning in. But I think the decision may be that I'm going to release these on Monday from now on. Seems like a better idea to me. That way I have the weekend to do extra mixing or anything I need to in case the week gets away from me with busy scheduling. So, yeah, you can expect the next episode in 2 weeks' time on a Monday, 2 weeks from today. And I know who that guest is, but I'm going to let you wait until the end of the show before I reveal that to you. But if you tune into our other sister podcast, which I call that, although it is kind of unrelated to this in every way, but it's a sister podcast in that I'm in both of them. It is X-Rated, the X-Men Animated Review Show, in which I and Davin Scalehorn watch and review every episode of the X-Men animated series from Fox in the 1990s. And sometimes we have special guests of people who worked on the show. We had the Leewalds, Eric and Julie, who were he was the showrunner, and she wrote many episodes of the show. We had Rick Hoberg, who was an animator, was an artist for Marvel for a while. And on this week's episode, which will be tomorrow, if you're tuning into this when it drops on Monday, Davin and I will be talking to Lenore Zan, who is a former MLA of my area in Toronto, Nova Scotia, but also was the voice of Rogue in that show. So we're going to do a fun little interview with her, talk about her life, her career. Davin asks her a lot of questions related to the show itself. So, yeah, it's going to be a really fun time. If you haven't been tuning into that show and you like nostalgia podcasts, you like review podcasts, you like ones that deal with things that you loved as a youth, this is the show for you, so make sure to tune in. Meanwhile, in the normal world, I did manage to watch a couple movies this past week. I saw Top Gun, Maverick, which actually was surprisingly fun. I didn't have that growing up nostalgia of that movie. I only watched Top Gun for the first time a year or two ago, and I liked it. It's a fun movie. It's very much a product of its time. This movie does a good job of sort of honoring that, but also giving it its own way. I feel like you walk a tight line with these sort of way late in the game sequels, decades later sequels. But it seems like a natural way of how that story would have progressed if you let it progress to where it was. But yeah, it's fun. They do. It does seem like they do the hits as far as showing you some of the characters you want to see, the sports on the beach, topless scenes, the slow motion sex scenes, all that sort of stuff kind of makes its return. We do get Danger Zone again in a little bit at the beginning just to sort of get it out of the way. which is fun. But yeah, it's a good movie. It certainly goes a little more action-y than the previous one did, with some fun stuff. But I feel like it all works, and it's definitely a very good sequel. I want to say like a very good next step into that franchise. I don't know if they're doing any more. Regardless, it was really fun, and I quite enjoyed it. The other movie I saw was Thor: Love and Thunder, which I also really enjoyed. Yeah, I don't want to give too much away since it's really a new movie. All I'm going to say is if I had one problem with the movie, and I wouldn't even call it a problem, that would be Christian Bale. I would have liked to see more of him. I feel like that character, the God Butcher, has very interesting motivation. In the comics, to me, the concept of a character, if you've read the comics, you're familiar with him. Once again, I don't want to give too much away because, I mean, even talking about his comic origins and story would kind of give you some insight into what the character does in the movie. So I'm going to skip that for now. But I just would have liked to see that fleshed out a little more. However, it's a very fun movie. It's got a lot of heart, as a lot of Taika Waititi movies do. He's a filmmaker that I deeply respect and have loved everything he has done that I've seen. I believe The Boy might be the only thing I haven't seen yet, or Boy, I think it's called. One of his early films. That might be his first one. I have yet to see, but I think I've seen everything else, and I've really loved it. He's a fine actor, great writer and director, and yeah, Thor: Love and Thunder is a ton of fun, so definitely check that out as well. But, you know, I've tallied, I've talked, I've spoke too long. We should get to my discussion with today's guest. Today's guest, of course, being Jeff Smith. Not that Jeff Smith from Bone, and I know that joke is probably a bit trite at this point. However, this Jeff Smith is the creator of The Comic Hunter, which is sort of a famous little comic shop that started in Charlottetown, PEI, and expanded to Moncton, New Brunswick, as well as Fredericton, New Brunswick. They just bought a new building and are moving everything to their new store in Moncton. It's a massive store that's like a real... It's almost like going to church for nerds when you walk into a place that's massive with comic books and graphic novels and video games, or not video games, sorry, board games, statues, single issues, artist editions, everything you can think of in nerddom, cards, collectibles, all that stuff. It's really like going to church for people like me. You know, I don't go to church. I don't really believe in anything like that. However, there's almost a feeling of like you belong somewhere where you're surrounded by the things that you love in this life. So it does give me that vibe when I walk into that place. And Jeff is the one that started it all. So it was a great conversation. I've known Jeff for a few years, mostly just through nerd circles, of course. However, I frequented his store, and I just recently went to PEI. After we'd recorded this, I went to PEI the following weekend, which I believe we discussed in the conversation. And I got to see Jeff in the store and pick up a book, a very good book called Trash by Durf Backdurf, who wrote most notably My Friend Dahmer, which is a very famous graphic novel. But this was his next book, which sort of outlines, in a fictional way, a lot of the stories of his true-to-life stories of being a garbage man when he was in his early 20s. So it's a very cool book. It's very eye-opening as far as how much trash people create on a regular basis and what happens to that trash once it leaves your curb. So yeah, I definitely suggest picking that up. And definitely suggest going to Jeff's store if you're ever in the area. Jeff, as well, has been a punk band enthusiast, playing in many different bands. He also does lighting for shows around. He showed me some very impressive photos of some of the lighting he's done at some recent concerts that have happened in Charlottetown. So yeah, Jeff's a very cool guy with quite a lot of spokes in his wheel, to use an old phrase. He has his hand in a lot of things, and he does them all very well. So a very cool guy, and we had a very interesting talk in which he kind of walks me through his life in comics by showing some of the comics that led him to these points. It's actually really cool. So cool, in fact, that I'm thinking about maybe, since we're doing a Patreon at the other show, the X-Men show, doing one for this. I don't know how many people would be down for that, but one of the things I may offer may be video versions of these interviews for certain episodes. Not all the time. Some people don't necessarily want their video. Are just happy for the audio, but some folks are okay with it. And Jeff had gone into this whole thinking it was a video podcast, however, it was not. But, he did bring some really lovely visual aids that might be cool to see if you want to watch the actual interview as a video. So that may be something I'll do. But, if that's something of interest to you, hit me up. Drop me a line. Let me know if you think that would work, or if you would be a patron, if you will, to Patreon if I were to set that up. So, yeah. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into today's talk with Comic Hunter's own Jeff Smith.
just press all the buttons and click all the links.
No, it's fine. I don't know if I had to upgrade to the professional version of Zoom, so I'm not sure if because of that people can't just use the link to log in anymore, because I had the same problem last time I talked to somebody.
Yeah, it's an odd one. Yeah. Well, what was happening was it said your browser doesn't support it, so it wasn't taking me right to the app.
Oh, I see.
I had to
Interesting.
open it in Safari or something. I don't know what it
Weird.
was.
Oh, no worries at all. How are you?
Good. How are things going over there?
Oh, good. Yeah, can't complain. Actually, Cale Harding was just here on the weekend, him and his wife.
Right on.
A mutual friend. I know he frequents your shop.
Oh, yeah. And let me guess. You guys ate food and ate more food and ate food again.
Yes, and there's a little bit of alcohol involved. And
he's a foodie.
Yeah, he is. But we did some good stuff. We had just Canada Day stuff. They're on vacation, so they were here over Canada Day. So we went to a concert.
Awesome.
Did all that fun stuff. How was your Canada Day?
Good. Yeah, today was fun. It was a good day.
Yeah.
I ordered hundreds and hundreds of comics, so I'm in my happy place.
Oh yeah, excellent.
Yeah. I tell people sorting comics is like here's an expression that'll age me. It's like defragging my brain.
Really?
Only us old geeks will remember what that means.
I'm familiar with what defragging a computer is too.
It feels exactly like that. Like the day gets all jumbled up, I put a bunch of comics in order, and then suddenly everything makes sense again.
It's funny because every once in a while when a computer's acting weird, I'm always like, should I defrag it? And it's just like a weird part in the back of my brain. It's like, no, that's not going to matter anymore. Don't bother with that.
Oh, now you clear your cookies.
That's true. But do you find that now? Like, if you reach a zenness when you're organizing stuff in general, or is it just comics?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Is it just comics or organization in general?
Oh, in general, comics, DVDs, magic cards. Mm-hmm. It's all good. If I was in the right room, I could show you my Lego collection, which is sorted by brick type.
Oh my God.
And it's probably a couple 100,000 bricks, so it took a while.
So you just have boxes of each individual brick type?
Yeah, actually, what I got in some cases, I've got those tool boxes with the little tiny drawers for the really weird pieces.
Oh yeah. Wow. So comics isn't just your bag. It's Lego. I know you're into movies too. So.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah. Oh wow.
I'm a hobbyist. In fact, as you probably have imagined, I'm a hobbyist who has absolutely no restraint on whatever hobbies I get into. So I got to be very picky what I decide that I'm going to do. Like somebody's like, you should take up golf. I'm like, no, because then I'll have to be on Pebble Beach. I'll have to have Tiger Woods clubs, and no, not going there.
You know what? You kind of said like me. I'm the exact same way. For the most part, I mean, like I got to watch. Like I have enough hobbies now between movies, collecting movies, comics, graphic novels, reading books. I do golf, but only generally with friends. It's not something I do on my own.
Not pro yet, huh?
Yeah, no, not even close. It's usually just a nice reason to hang out with friends. I do enjoy it. It's a fun day, but it's not something that I have, even guitar. Like I just learned guitar not so long ago. So nice. Little things like that. But like, sometimes when I get into like
a jam session one of these days.
Oh, sure. 100%. What do you play?
I play bass.
Okay, perfect. Just acoustic is all I got so far. I haven't worked up anything bigger yet. But
we'll work on our Dave Matthews tunes then.
Crash into me. I'll work on it. I've actually jokingly asked a buddy. I said I've been kind of jokingly wanting to start a band that's just acoustic 90s songs.
Oh yeah.
I was just gonna call it sad 90s, and that's all it would just be.
We did that.
Really?
I had a hard rock band.
Yeah.
And we did a gig one time, and they said you're only allowed to use acoustic guitars and quiet bass and so on. We played System of a Down songs on acoustic. You would not have believed. My poor guitar player, like, I could feel the pain.
Oh but man, that's amazing. I would love to see Chop Suey done acoustically. That would be amazing.
We did BYOB. Imagine that.
Oh wow, that's even better.
Friggin' ridiculous.
That's amazing. Holy crap. That's stupendous. My God.
Did some Tool songs on acoustic guitar. Felt unnatural.
Oh man, that's great. I'm super into that. I hope there's a recording of that somewhere I can listen to sometime.
I doubt it. No. Honestly, I feel like I need to record a lot more stuff. I got the GoPro. I take it to shows occasionally, and then I forget to press go or whatever. But
yeah.
these moments, there some magic moments happen, and then they're just gone.
Oh, well. That's amazing. So
you want to talk a little bit about the history of Comic Hunter?
Well, everything really. It's usually just a casual conversation about you, and we can go through Comic Hunter
cool.
as well. But
yeah, okay.
Sure.
Do you want me to walk through these stages of my collecting?
Well, where did you where did you grow up? Was it in Charlottetown?
Yeah. Basically, we moved here when I was 6. So
from
my life of doing things of my own started here.
Where'd you come from?
New Brunswick.
Okay, so not too far.
No, just Maritimes.
Wow.
Over in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, just sort of moving around. My dad had a career going, and he basically went where the next post was, just working his way up the ladder. But he wanted to stay in Atlantic Canada just because of the lifestyle and the people who live here. So if they offered him a Toronto post, he'd be like, no, I think I'll just move another Maritimes part.
What kind of work did he
do? He investment.
Oh, okay.
So it was a.
That's cool that he, I wouldn't say sacrificed, but he, instead of going for the bigger fish in like Toronto or whatever, he was happier to stay in Atlantic Canada. Much nicer pace.
Oh yeah. Very, very family focused. And I see it too. I brought up my kids in the Maritimes, and I think it's just great for them. They're well-rounded people, and they meet a whole variety of different folks and so on, but they also can relax a little bit. They don't quite have the big city tension happening.
Yeah.
Charlottetown. I joke with people in PEI who are leaning on their horn. I'm like, where are you going? It's PEI. Honestly, what are you doing?
I live in Toronto, Nova Scotia. It's kind of the same thing. I'm like, if you're in a hurry to get somewhere, I get it. I totally get it. But it's like, come on, like, what is it? It can't be that bad. Whatever job you probably have is not going to be that upset if you say you were a little late because of traffic or whatever. Like the pace is so slow that it's I wouldn't say it's like snail's pace, but enough that nothing's that bad. Nothing.
There was 4 cars at the Tim Hortons,
Pretty much, that's the traffic holdup.
So the quickest history of comics, indoor Comic Hunter and me.
Yeah.
I couldn't find it, but my first comic that I bought was Star Wars #1.
Oh, so the Marvel, that's when Marvel put them out when their movies are coming out before they had the show movies actually out. Okay.
Yep. Exactly.
The history of those is interesting. They invented all these characters, and they have versions of the characters that are all different because they didn't see the movie yet. Like as far as what the pictures look and stuff, right? Yeah.
That's totally. Yeah.
Isn't that rabbit character too that came out of that?
Yeah. Green Rabbit.
Yeah, I know. It's like one of those weird, like little side Star Wars things. It's almost like they're down there with the holiday special and all that. Ridiculous.
Have you suffered through the holidays?
Oh, I have. Back in the day,
I've seen it twice. I don't know what I was thinking.
Back in the day when people traded like tapes. So like, if the only way to see that and to see like, there's a person I knew, her boyfriend worked in film, and he had like a network of people that would trade tapes of bootlegs and stuff. And we were talking one day, and I said, I've always wanted to watch the Star Wars holiday special. This is kind of before the internet and downloading to the level it is now, where you can get everything that way. And I always really wanted to see the Roger Corman Fantastic Four movie. And he had both. So he put them both on a cassette tape for me and gave it to me. And I got to tell you, it's one of the weirdest cassette double bill tapes you'll ever watch in your life.
I can imagine.
I love the 40-minute Wookiee conversation with no translation, just screaming Wookiees at each other for 20 minutes. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, not a lot of editing in that show.
So was it like you were into Star Wars as a kid, and then the comic drew you in, or was it just,
I don't, I honestly don't remember if I bought the comic before seeing the movie, because it was one of the first movies I saw that I remember seeing in the theater. My dad took me to it, and I know it blew me away. For that entire year in school, I was known as Star Wars, which back then wasn't as cool as it is now. Back then, I was like, "Oh, there's Star Wars again."
Yeah, wasn't a badge of honor per se.
It was for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Everybody else was like, "Oh."
Oh, that's awesome. Well, the thing is, like back then, if you were like a budding nerd, what did you have to nerd out to? Like Star Wars, Buck Rogers, Battlestar Galactica, Star Trek. That's about it, really.
99.
Yeah, exact. Space 1999. And comics, really.
Space show ever.
Even like for sci-fi, you had like Isaac Asimov and Ray Bradbury books, old ones, and then like Philip K. Dick stuff when he got a little older. But there wasn't like your cup wasn't running a Dune, I suppose. But like everything was like it wasn't a huge wealth of so much nerdy stuff there that you can overwhelm yourself. I think you have today.
No, 70s was all like gritty U.S. cop drama and stuff. lots and lots of it. World in Decay stuff.
Trading in your Starsky and Hutch lunchbox for the Star Wars one,
huh? Pretty much. Yeah. First comic shop I got to was the Silver Snail in Toronto.
Oh, what I wanted to start with.
Yeah. We were on a family cross country trip, and I said I need to go to that store. I have to go to that store, and so they made this special side trip. It took me right into there.
How would you have heard of it?
Place. I don't know.
How'd you even know back then? Is this like, it's like they're in Wizard magazine or you're reading it, the internet. So,
I don't actually know how I knew about it.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's a good question. I have no idea.
Okay, cool. I was curious.
Up on it somewhere.
Yeah.
Because I knew it existed. I knew exactly where it was.
Yeah.
And it was like, that was like the for a comic book fan, that was the place to go. So 83, I went in there and I got.
Oh my God.
Daredevil in the most terrible condition ever.
Still. That's amazing. Daredevil number 3.
It was $3. Oh man, I was excited. and they had a bunch of other stuff. They had, at that point, they had comics all hanging from the ceiling. You walked in and basically it was like somebody's closet of just comics for every inch where they could be. It was back before all the shiny display cases and nice toys and stuff. It was just wall-to-wall comics. And I could have lived there.
Yeah.
And it's funny when I think about it, when I many years later, when I opened the Comic Hunter, I thought, I want my store to have that impact on people when they walk in, and it'd be like, holy cow, look at all the stuff. Yeah. I've always looked at that. That's my favorite.
I'd say you got it. I felt that way when I walked in your store the first time.
Yeah.
And I've been to a lot of comic stores. So, I'm always, whenever I guess you're the one to talk to about this, but like when you go into a comic store, there's two vibes you get. One, it's like a toy store that has some comics, and one that it's a comic store. And yours is a comic store where it's like you can tell the owner loves comics or the person that's running it, and really has a reverence for it more so than just trying to sell toys and stuff.
Yeah, and you could say, to be fair, I mean, some of those toy stores, you could say they're pop culture stores.
That would be a better way to describe it.
That's how I kind of look at it. Like there's a pop convention here in town that I go to I really like, but it is definitely more of the pop culture kind of thing. And lots of video games, lots of movie references. We still fit in there as a little spot. But for my store, it had to be a comic store. I mean, I've been obsessed with comics forever. Even before I bought that Star Wars #1, I had piles, but I hadn't bought them. At that point, if you were in a neighborhood and you're like, I like comics, all the neighbors just gave you all the pile of comics that they were done with.
That their kids had.
Every house had piles of them. Well, Westerns and Richie Rich and Archies and stuff. Yeah. I read so many Richie Rich comics. And, so we've got a really good Richie Rich section of my store because I know just how much fun they are for little kids to read.
Yeah, that's true. And that would be an interesting one because it's not one I have a lot of, I guess for my age bracket, it's not something that I grew up with. It was kind of even old hat by then. Like even Archie seemed a little antiquated when I was, when I was growing up. It was all like whatever, I think it was like Clone Saga, Spider-Man stuff and all that kind of stuff was like the big go when I was going. So there wasn't you didn't see a lot of those old, God, I'm forgetting the blanket on the name, but some of those other Gold Key comics like Scrooge and those sort of stuff. Like I had them because same reason old relatives gave me piles of comics, but.
Everybody had those old Star Trek Gold Keys. They were just absolutely everywhere.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I come across collections of those in used bookstores all the time. Like just books and stuff.
So I got more. I got props.
Oh, bring them out. This is an audio podcast, but I'll describe them.
Is it audio? Okay.
Yeah, it's all right. Bring them out. We could definitely talk about it.
Okay, so I was in. I got to get the story straight here.
Yep.
When I was young, I had piles of comics in the house, ridiculous amounts of them. And one of my dad's friends said, "It is impossible to make money from comic books. You can't do it." So that was, that's in the back of my mind from very young. That it's like, it's funny when they talk about those things, like when you were a little kid, what did you want to do? And I was like, I wanted to own a comic shop. And I've never varied. And here we are, like a lot of years later.
Yeah. So there was no impetus to want to get into it as like an artist or a writer. You just wanted to get into it, have a comic shop, even from a young age.
Yeah, exactly. I love comic books. I love the comic community. I love the idea of comics coming and going. I mean, when somebody gets a comic that I know is really good and it's the first time they're going to read it, I get ridiculously excited.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That just never goes away.
It's funny.
All right.
Oh, you go ahead. Oh, I
Now,
was gonna
fast
say,
forward.
I do the same thing. I like if I come across in used shops and stuff for comics that I love for like a couple bucks, I'll pick them up and I'll just give them to people and be like, "This is amazing. I know you'll like this."
Yep.
So like, I love
Yep.
that you have the same impulse, but you've taken it to such a grander level to like run a shop and do it that way.
Well, we'll rewind to the. I don't seem to be able to do hobbies on any kind of a moderate degree.
Yeah.
So late 80s,
Yeah.
no, mid 80s, just before Dark Knight and just before comics got really awesome.
Mhm.
I sold my collection and bought a bass guitar and a bass amp and became a heavy metal god for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And
minor god.
I was, well, modestly successful. Anyhow, so I was out of it completely. I had like I don't know, 50 comics left, right? And I walked into a used bookstore and they had a comic section and I spotted this.
Oh, number 300. First print.
Yeah, number 300, just there, for like $1 or something like that. And I thought that's a really cool cover. And I kind of like Spider-Man. So on a whim, I bought it. This is years I've had no comics.
Mm-hmm.
I read it and obviously it completely blew me away. Like what had happened from comics. I mean, early 90s comics are awesome. No doubt about it. But I mean, so much went right in Spider-Man 300.
Yeah.
That I got it and I was like, okay. And then I went to our local comic shop and I set up a standing order like immediately. And I wanted anything by Todd McFarlane because he completely just was awesome.
So how old were you at this time?
Rick. Well, I was in university.
19.
So I'd be like 18, 19, I think.
So like Todd, like the edginess of the new wave of comics with like,
There's so much energy. His artwork, especially for the Hulk and Spider-Man, it's just like every page is just like it leaps out at you.
His Hulk work especially doesn't get talked about as much.
Oh, his Hulk is great.
It's almost like a horror comic the way it's drawn, and it's awesome. I love it. Yeah,
it's a horror comedy comic, if anything else, because he's exaggerated everything so much.
Yeah.
I mean, anyhow, it was really great.
Yeah.
So I got that, and then I was in year 3 of university, getting a
what
business
were you taking?
degree.
Oh, business degree. Okay.
Business administration.
Yeah.
And at that point, this is late 80s. It was all corporate. How to climb the corporate ladder, how to be on a CEO, how to be the board of directors. I thought this is not what I'm looking for. I wanted hands-on small business stuff because that's what really interested me.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought a local comic shop that had gone out of business, just bought their stock and set up 2 tables in the hallway of the Confederation Court Mall as a project. I said I wanted to go through the process. I wanted to do a set of books. I want to do the bookkeeping. I want to have product in, product out. So it's just comic books at that point, strictly to see what happened. And that would be in 89.
Yeah.
And what happened was the Batman movie came out and hockey cards exploded. And so I went from my 2 little tables to a retail location immediately, brought in a partner, invested some money into it, had a store running, literally maybe weeks after I set up my first booth. Because we had Batman, we had Boy Scout Jamboree in town. So I think it was 14,000, 10, 12, 13, 14-year-old boys descend on my store.
Wow.
It was like a plague of locusts for comic
So
books.
when you bought out the other guy, you just bought out his stock. He didn't obviously get the store, the location or anything. You just took his comics.
They tried comics for a bit and it just wasn't their thing.
Oh, I see.
And
okay.
They sold it out.
Wow.
And it was a wildly eccentric array of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
In that collection, though, I did get some comics by my favorite writer in comics, who I happen to have a comic of his right now. Eddie Campbell is my favorite writer.
Really?
I adore his stuff. Yeah.
I don't hear him mentioned as a writer that often. Mostly just through his artwork through
good
From Hell and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, and for sure. And he's on there as an artist, but he contributed details to that because Eddie is, I think, one of the smartest people in comics. He knows so much stuff. Like I get the feeling you could sit at a table with him and talk for days and he wouldn't repeat himself. He's got so much information crammed in there.
the Alex collection. I have that, and I have a few others, but I haven't read it yet. So that's next.
Oh, you read Alec.
I'll
Alec
put
is
it to the
genius.
top. I'll put it to the top.
Yeah, and then all the back of stuff too. It's all
I
amazing.
think I have that as well. I got a few. Like I got a library in my house, and it's so crammed right now that like I gotta.
And he's kind of got that Neil Gaiman thing where he'll just throw bits of information in just one bit after another, assuming that you've read source material. He's not going to explain it. Just there it is.
Good.
And you just get the feeling he reads and reads and reads and reads and reads.
I like writers that don't like hold your hand through everything. They let you.
Oh yeah, no, he doesn't.
Yeah, don't do small.
He does have a side character who's a philosopher who occasionally explains things in case it gets too weird.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, Eddie Campbell, very nice.
I'm going to show you some history.
All right, bring it
Originally,
on.
the name of the business was different. It was originally the Hunter Comics.
Really? So why was it the Hunter Comics?
Because I was the hunter. Because my favorite thing in the world is filling want lists. Mm-hmm. So my idea at that point was, it was out of my apartment, I think. It was tiny. It was a tiny operation. My thing at that point was, you give me your list and I'm going to find them for you. That's what my goal was going to be. So it wasn't really about the retail location. It was more about the service. Mm-hmm. And I really got into that.
And at that time period, that would have been a good time to run a service like that, because that's like, obviously pre-internet, pre-ordering online, you need someone that has the time and the resource to be able to go around into these stores and find these things. So what were some of the things you were filling? Like what were people bringing to you?
Well, I was already in the process of vacuuming up every comic I could find. Mm-hmm. So I figured, if I'm going to be grabbing all the comics in the world, I might as well help other people finding all the comics in the world. Mm-hmm. So at that point, what was really big? Batman was huge. Mm-hmm. It's just absolutely huge. I'm getting the order a little mixed up here because that was obviously before I had a retail location. But all of this stuff happened in a super brief period of time. Yeah. And it all happened many decades ago. So
yeah, that's fair. Very fair. It's funny though.
These are all factually true. What's that?
I'm just saying, it's funny that you were like, you're on that bubble, like you just started the store right when that bubble was like just growing with the comics, the sports cards,
phenomenal timing,
that stuff. Yeah,
outrageous timing. And what happens at that point? You get there was distributors all over the place. They start to have distributor consolidation. They start to have all kinds of reorganizations of the distributor network. So the direct market was getting tons of support at that point. Mm-hmm. I was getting comics from, I think, Andromeda out of Ontario at that point.
So this was long before Diamond and all that stuff, right? Like,
Diamond existed at that point, I believe, but the Canada had a whole series of distributors. You could just pick which one you want to be with. Wow. It was really scattered network, but you could see even when I got in, even within months, there was like, this one got gobbled up and that one got gobbled up. Because the market, 89, 90, 91, the market just absolutely exploded. So there was big money going into it.
Yeah. Wow.
I got another piece of history here.
Oh, got from my Gaslight.
That was in.
Is that signed by Mignola too?
Yeah.
Nice.
Indeed. Actually, I got two stories.
I don't know if you can see on the wall. I have a copy of the single issue signed by him. Right there. Cool. Yeah. A friend gave that to me for my birthday or Christmas a few years ago.
All right, so I got two Gotham by Gaslight tales then. It was in the first box of comics that I got from my store. So that you can date when my store became an actual comic store by the date that comic came out.
Yeah.
I remember I opened it in a restaurant. We were having a celebratory dinner, so I took my first box and I opened it up at the restaurant. We were all like, "Ooh, look all the cool comics!" So that was my first order. So obviously one of my favorite comics of all time.
Yeah.
And then I was at Montreal Comic Con and Mignola was there, so I tracked him down and I got this comic signed. I said, "This was my first order ever," and he was like a less than flattering conversation to DC and so on. So, but I got him signed it anyhow. Mm-hmm. But I told him I would stock lots and lots and lots more Hellboy, which I did.
Oh, excellent.
So you get a good sale out of it.
Good, fantastic. And that was actually probably something really interesting to get early as well, because that, really took off too.
Yeah, it sure did. Yeah. It's good stuff.
Wow.
But that was kind of neat. So, and when I got this signed, I said, "So how much is that signature?" He says, "Do I look like an effing baseball player?"
I feel like he's not quite that hospitable nowadays. Probably.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but I don't know much about him as a personality wise. But I actually did kickstart that the documentary they put out about him. So I believe I got some kind of a email recently saying that they're shipping them out soonish, or there's.
Neat.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to watch it. It comes with a T-shirt and some other stuff. So.
Very cool.
I'm a big fan of his work. So it's pretty cool. But now, I mean, at that point, he was still kind of up and coming, right? Like, how long would Hellboy have been out at that point? Not that long.
Yeah. Here's another piece of history that I found.
Bring it on me.
The first flyer from when my store opened officially in the mall.
Lower Confederation Court.
Oh yeah.
Amazing.
We opened up first at the bottom of the escalator in a little tiny location. I think it was 400 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
And things escalated so quickly that we moved across the hallway to, I think, a 1,200 square foot store, which a lot of people on the island remember fondly because we set up an arcade in it.
Oh, beautiful.
Because we were in a mall, we were allowed to use the hallway for tournaments. So we could have like a Magic tournament in the hallway and an arcade going. It was pretty amazing.
That sounds fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny how like everything old becomes new again. Like the thing now, like I'm a professional wrestler, and I had shows this past weekend, Saturday and Sunday, at the Propeller Arcade in Halifax. So the bar, it was actually a show, like the wrestling ring is set up in the arcade. So like where you're wrestling in here, it's all standing room only. It's not a huge room, but up above it is where all the arcade machines are and all that fun stuff. So like. There's like wrestlers fighting into arcade machines and, and then like a bunch of hipsters playing them and drinking beer in between. Like it was a really fun event. And it's so cool that like, the arcades you all played for youth are all back now that we're older. And now it's something you do with your buddies when you're drinking. It's like, it's like the trends you had as a kid just follow you through life. It's like you don't outgrow them. They just follow.
Yeah. One of the biggest pinball arcades in Canada just opened in Cornwall, for in case you're over on PEI again.
Seriously? I will be actually this week.
Yeah. I saw a newspaper article. It's like this guy's dream was to open a pinball arcade. So he opened one of the biggest ones in all of Canada in Cornwall.
So it's just pinball.
I think so. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. I'm totally going to that. That sounds fantastic.
Well, the thing what it is that pinball machines, we had a couple of them. We had the Twilight Zone, which we played way too much. Mm-hmm. But it has a zillion moving parts, and you really need to know those machines because something goes funny, you have to fix it. There's no pinball technician you can call up.
Yeah.
So these guys, those who are into pinball machines, are all the way in because they have to know how every bit of it works.
Yeah, that's way too much work for me.
Yeah, well, same with
I'd love to have a working one, but I really don't want to go through the effort of fixing it if something goes wrong.
Oh, yeah. And they do. They burger up a lot. There's all little springs and wires and stuff.
A dream of mine has always been to have the Tales from the Crypt one. They have that one at the Spin It behind the Comic Center in
right on
in Moncton, and man, I always see it. I'm like, oh, I wish I had that. It's so cool.
I got more comic stuff.
Yeah, bring it out.
More props that are very great.
I kind of like this. We're like doing props as we're going through the history. This is really good. Thanks for setting this up. This is fantastic.
Yeah, well, I did it also so I could remember.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So a few years ago, pre-TV show and world fame, I decided I finished my Spider-Man collection. I finished my Avengers collection. And I was like, I need something fun to hunt for.
So I decided, every issue of these is what you mean by finished?
Yeah, I had all of Spider-Man at one point. I sold one of it at the mall. Wow. I still have all the Avengers because I love the Avengers.
Well, you and Kale must get along well because he's like 3 issues away from having everything in it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I don't know if he knows that I have the issues that he needs, but he can't have them.
Well, I think he probably would understand why.
I decided to collect MODOK.
Oh,
like I said, this is pre-TV show. I thought he amuses me entirely, particularly the sensational failures that he does over and over again. So I hunted down every appearance of him in any way. Like if he's on a poster in a wall of a comic, I got that. I even got the Marvel versus Capcom technical books and stuff. And then I got the Lego kits. And then I started buying original pages. And that was probably a terrible move.
Yeah, not a lot of demand for MODOK original artwork.
Well, no, it's that when it's really cool and really expensive.
Oh, I see.
And
yes.
If you decide to collect it, you can't just get a couple pages. You have to get a bunch. So I got a whole scrapbook full of them.
I have a
And-
few, but not many. I think there's Nick
it's-
Bradshaw, Army Darkness comic here, and I think
that's amazing.
yeah, it was yeah,
Oh,
it's
that's really
I was pretty happy to get that. So, but
yeah, that's sweet.
yeah, very cool.
I did get Nick to do a MODOK, but it was one of those charity ones. So he did like a 3-second MODOK. So it's
Oh yeah.
circle with 2 legs. I'll get him to do a real one someday.
So what did you think of the show? Did you enjoy the Hulu show?
Which one?
The Hulu show?
Oh yeah,
the
it was
MODOK
funny.
show?
It was funny.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with MODOK, but it was funny.
Yeah, I watched
Okay,
a bit of it, and it was like just it very much felt like I was kind of watching an extended Robot Chicken episode. But I did enjoy it. And Patton Oswalt's always a delight, so he was the fun choice for that.
Yeah.
I'm
They
super
should. I mean, if they'd have done real MODOK, I think they probably couldn't do it because of
what would it
licensing.
be? Well, what would it be? Like
Well,
you just
here's
some Boston people
MODOK.
around?
I'll sum MODOK up really quickly because I've read a lot of his appearances.
Uh,
You have some kind of an unusual power source. He decides he has to have it, and he goes after you.
Mhm.
That's why he's after the Moonstones and after Iron Man and after Hulk and after just everybody because they've got a power source and he wants it. He always wants more power. Like
for
literally.
what? What's he going to do with it?
Oh, I don't think it's not that far
That's a
ahead.
question later.
Well, he's gonna take over the world, obviously.
Yeah, but you gotta like just having the power doesn't mean you can take over the world. You need to do something with it. Either build something that it's powered by, or sell it. I
I'm
guess.
trying to
I don't
build,
know.
a moon-sized battle station of some sort. I don't know. He doesn't do things small, but he just never gets out of the starting gate. He's basically like, if I have this power, I will do this excellent plan. He goes after the power, he fails. Excellent plan doesn't happen.
The motivation for old hero or villains kills me. Like me and a buddy used to laugh constantly about the 60s Spider-Man cartoon and how like I think there's an episode where Rhino is collecting pieces for a doomsday device. Like what is Rhino going to do with the doomsday device? Like is he going to assemble it himself? It's like and then use it to blow up the world? Like he's like a big dumb guy in a Rhino costume, and it's like he's so. There's another one where he just gets stealing gold to make a gold statue of himself. That's what he wants to do. It's like a great motivation. Just I want to steal this gold. I'm not going to sell it. I'm not going to make money. I'm just going to make a gold statue of myself that I can look at from time to time. Like that's the whole point of my criminal empire. Yeah, exactly. There you go. That's your impetus.
Good idea.
Perhaps the next stage of life will be assembling a gold statue of yourself.
Yeah, unlikely.
Well, hey. Amazing. So at this point, you're just growing and growing as the years are piling on.
What's that? The store or my collection?
Yeah, the store, both, I guess. Because
Yeah.
you find it hard running a store, like not just buying everything. Because like as a collector, I feel like you'd have to put that part of yourself aside.
I had to set rules for myself years and years and years ago. Like when collections come in, the customers get first crack.
Okay.
I put everything all out. And I'm almost all my collection, except for some of my Avengers, which I just went out and bought.
Mhm.
But most of my collection is stuff that sat out for a while. And I was like, okay, it's been long enough. Now I can take it. Because it's really, I have to really limit what I intake. Otherwise, I'll have a million comics in my house.
Mm-hmm. Which
And
I'm
no
sure you're
habits.
probably not far from already.
No, my collection's pretty lean because I go through every so often and I do the am I going to read this again test. And if I'm not going to read it again, then it goes.
Yeah.
And
that's
I got
fair.
rid of a lot of stuff. Plus, some stuff that stays.
Yeah.
But and also sometimes they put out really prestigious hardcovers. I'm like, okay, that's just gorgeous. Like I picked up the complete Frank Miller Daredevil, like everything he ever did for Daredevil.
Mhm.
So all my Daredevil comics went in.
I have those too. Yeah, those collections,
Oh,
omnibus collections, are gorgeous.
It's just beautiful. So I had to have it.
Yeah,
I guess-
the original art. I instead of going deep into getting the original art, a lot of the extra money for me goes towards is the artist editions.
Oh yeah,
The
they're
giant-
neat.
yeah. I have 15 or 20 of them. I love them.
Oh really?
So, yeah, I have the Daredevil. I have the Frank Miller Daredevil one too, which is fantastic.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
I picked up the Monsters Unleashed Super Edition.
Oh, that would be super cool.
It's like 3 feet tall or something like that.
I love
Because
those.
that's monster sized, and it's got MODOK in it. So
there you go. I mean, so you're like buying the Legend figures to assemble your MODOK and do all that too?
I've got that. Yeah, I got that guy already put together. Actually, I got that as a present
Nice.
because once I got into MODOK, absolutely everybody knew I was into MODOK. It became I'm pretty active on Twitter, and on Twitter, I know for a while there, the artists who were working on MODOK all knew me as the MODOK guy. And if they had something new come available, they'd contact me. And it's a shame I don't have my collection here to show it off. Next time you're on, I'll show it to you.
I'm actually coming this weekend. So
right on.
Yeah.
Do you know the MODOK Assassin series that came out? 5-parter with incredibly ridiculously awesome covers on it.
The one where, like Modok's 5 or 6 or like the Modok's 11 or whatever that story.
No. That's another sweet one. But no, this is where he's pictured with the ridiculous amounts of guns.
No, yeah.
Anyhow, I got all 5 covers off somebody because he knew who I was, and he at that point he wanted to sell them as a unit, and he knew I would buy them. So he just contacted me and he said, "I got these for X dollars." I was like, "Okay."
Please tell me one of your bands was like MODOK or Modar, or like mindless organisms died only to rock or something like that. Like,
do you know what I have? That's really unique. I've got from Jed McKay's first published story. He put a character in there called mobile organisms designed only for roller derby. And I've got the page where Mordor first appearance. So I've got a slice of Jed McKay's first published work with the first appearance of roller derby MODOK, which hasn't appeared since.
Oh wow! I just every time, like most times when I think about MODOK, it just goes towards Next Wave, like everyone else's.
Oh my god, that was
what
fun.
they did with them in that. So that always killed me too.
Yeah. I found a copy of that, and I got the artist to sign all over.
Stuart Immonen,
yeah, because he was over in Moncton, and I couldn't help myself. That series is so fun.
It's great. I'm a big Warren Ellis fan, so I was pretty happy to read that when it came out.
They need to print that book again. I don't think it's available right now.
Really? I feel like they put it out in trade, maybe not super frequently, but I agree. It's an excellent book.
Yeah,
I feel like elements of it trickled into other comics too. Like Bloodstone's and other characters been around for a bit, and some of those other ones have been around. Machine Man and stuff have kind of been recycled in other ways later on.
Yeah,
I don't think Dirk Angers made his way back into the Marvel universe yet, but you never know. Amazing.
I got another one. I got only one more pop left.
Okay.
Something I got into. I don't even know how I got into it, but I have become obsessed with Walt Kelly's Pogo.
Really?
Really phenomenal stuff.
See, and, I'm familiar with it because of Bone, Jeff Smith, the other Jeff Smith, the lesser Smith. I'm kidding. In case he's listening, I don't offend him because I'm a huge fan. I want to be in the show someday. But if you read anything about the making of Bone and his influence, Pogo was like the biggest one.
Oh, the art in Pogo is brilliant.
Yeah.
And the storytelling, it's smart storytelling. Like it's cute animals, but it is really clever. And for a while there in the 50s, it got really political.
Oh, excellent.
It became, very heavy satire. All the characters represented, people in the real world. So if you were living in the news cycle at that time, you'd be like, oh, that's who that is. Oh, that's who that is. And a lot of gentle mocking, like not really
satire.
What's that?
Like real satire, like when it used to be just a little bit of a probe, not so much hit you over the head with it.
For sure, yeah. It was sometimes it was so subtle you wouldn't even know exactly who they were talking about unless you knew the historical context that it came out. But everybody was in there, and that was really neat. Yeah, really well done.
Very cool. And it's funny because you can see the influences on Bone, and with cuddly creatures, but also like adult storytelling and stuff. Well, for the most part. Adult themes. It's definitely aimed at children and adults. I think that's what I like about it. It's kind of universal. You can appreciate a lot of the levels. The older you get, the more you read it, the sadder people's stories become when you have the subtext of being an adult and realizing some of those emotions when reading it. You miss that as a kid, but there's layers when you get older.
Something that's come up a lot is that movies and comics that you really, really like as a kid, as you age, you become different characters in the narrative. Because when I saw Star Wars in 1977, I was Luke Skywalker. When I saw Star Wars in the 80s and 90s, I was Han Solo. Now, I'm Obi-Wan. Eventually, the Emperor.
I was going to say, is it Vader, the Emperor? Where we headed here?
You know what I keep thinking? I think, controversial take, but I think Vader kind of had a point. They were bringing order to the universe. It's pretty chaotic without him around.
Well, I mean, 1984 seemed like a nice ordered society. I don't know if it was, you know, seemed like there was order. I don't know at what cost, I suppose is the question.
Yep.
But it's funny that you mentioned that because my wife and I literally just watched the first episode of Obi-Wan before we came on for this. So we were waiting for time to watch it together, and we just finally
watched,
some time cleaned up.
Phantom Menace last night.
Ooh.
And there's a good movie in Phantom Menace if you just
I agree. I literally said the same thing today. I'm like, that movie, like, if you like the pod racing is fun. All the Jedi orderly stuff, the way they were was fun. Ewan McGregor's awesome. Liam Neeson's great. Darth Maul's fantastic. We needed more Maul and less Jar Jar, and that would have been a much better.
Jar Jar was just toxic in it. Just horrible. And I thought maybe I would have mellowed, over time, because I watched it when it came out in theaters, and I was like, and I watched it again, obviously, a few more times. I watched it this time thinking, this time Jar Jar won't bother me. And I spent the whole thing going, what? Why did they put him in like that? Why did they make him so ridiculous? Yeah. Because I mean, I know he's trying for the comic relief thing, but it was too awkward and too obvious. I mean, the best comedy is inadvertent. And that was
it's kind of surreal now because, like, I guess you feel age clawing at you. I mean, you're older than me, so obviously you probably have a bigger frame of reference. But, like, when Star Wars came out, I was born 85. So it's like I didn't really see it until I was, 11, 12. And that was just the cassette box sets that my cousin had and I watched. And then I got my own for Easter or something. But then, when the new one came out, I was like in high school and I did like it. Jar Jar annoyed me, but I liked more Star Wars. I was just happy to have more Star Wars. Yep. But like, if I was a kid, like say I was, because I'm running into people now in life that are like grew up as children, like 6, 7, watching those movies and loving them. Now like Obi-Wan is like the nostalgia show for them, kind of, you know what I mean? Like, and it's like there's nostalgia shows for the generation before me now that are coming out. And it's like, you're getting it all the way up because obviously Star Wars fans of any age are going to go watch it. But, it's weird because like, and even watching this, I'm like, man, you know what? Like, Troy Little, and we've talked about Star Wars quite a bit. When I had him on the show, we talked about it too, because he's kind of like me. I'm like, I just like Star Wars. I mean, if they put out a Jar Jar show, I'd probably watch it and I'd probably like it. I don't know. I mean, I assume they'd give it some kind of a dark edge or something like they're doing to everything. Like,
well, you've heard the conspiracy about Jar Jar that he's
the Sith Lord, yeah. But even if you did a show because like Obi-Wan, he's all sad and like feels bad about everything that happened and is all exiled on Tatooine, and just do like the Jar Jar version where it's like, oh no, Misa destroyed the galaxy, like literally because of everything he's done. Like the Jedi Order got wiped out, the Empire took over, fascism rules across the galaxy, all because of this one dopey Gungan. Like that would weigh on you as a person. Like if you like if you could even like just to live with the guilt every day would be an interesting story.
Yep.
Like I think in some book somewhere, like I remember seeing the clickbait articles on Facebook. It was like somebody mentioned a story about a sad Gungan in town square that would entertain children, and they kind of allude that it's Jar Jar, just being, but it's like I even kind of feel bad for that because the actor that played him was so bullied and stuff online, and and it's just like maligned all across life that he I remember articles reading about him and some of the toxicness of Star Wars fandom. How he contemplated suicide because everybody hated him so much, and it's like that's some dark real world shit. If you could take that and put it on the actual character, I think that might be interesting. Why not?
Yeah,
it will never happen.
I mean,
but
really, obviously, Jar Jar is Lucas's fault, not the actor's fault.
No, not at all. Yeah, I don't blame Bess for that at all. It just sucks that his life was the blowback of it.
Yeah.
Even the kid that played Anakin, Jake Lloyd, the first kid, he was like, he went in a pretty dark path. I think he was like arrested a bunch of times and on drugs and all this other stuff. And like,
that's too bad.
Yeah. So I don't know what happened to him, but
he was actually fine. He didn't bother me at all.
He's a kid actor. What do you want? What do you want? He did great. I liked him in what was the Jingle All the Way? The Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. He was fine in that.
Yep. No complaints about that.
Amazing. So when did you get to like franchising? When did you start a shop in New Brunswick?
We did let me think when that was. 2004, I think.
So what's
2004, 2005. We've been kind of wanting to have a second store for a while. And Moncton was a place we were looking at, mostly because it'd be easier for us to go back and forth. And obviously not gonna open my second store in Vancouver or something.
Yeah.
So somewhere close by, and I knew a lot of people from Moncton because they were always coming over to my store.
Mm-hmm.
And we were doing a fair amount of business even at that point, even pre-internet. They
Mm-hmm.
just knew I had stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been serious into comics for forever and ever, basically. But when you talk about how do we resist buying all comics, we don't. Me and my manager in Moncton, Remy, we buy pretty much every collection that comes in, no matter what. Still, whether it makes sense or not. And, I figure if I'm going to be a comic shop, I got to be the place you sell comics. So there you go.
How'd you connect with Remy? Did you know him through buying comics?
Actually, I'll tell you the tale. It's pretty funny the way I remember it. Anyhow, Of course, a while ago. So we got a store over there. And the guy from PEI moved over there to run it for me. He was having a hard time with it. He didn't really know what he was doing. So I was over there and I was like, this is just not working. It's not working. And then one time I went in there and everything was organized. I was like, what happened? And my guy said, this guy came in on his break and fixed everything. And I was like, who was it? And I found out who it was. And I had a lunch with him or something like this. I said, do you want to work for me? I need that. So I basically just, poached him out of that sandwich restaurant he was working at, put him in my store, and he's been there ever since.
I'm sure he was happy to do so. I mean, obviously.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's really funny, especially if you have that drive to. It sounds like you found a kindred spirit in the need to organize.
Yes, definitely. I mean, it was chaos over there too, because the guy I had working for me at that point, he'd be playing cards all the time and hanging out with his friends, and it just didn't feel like it was wobbling all over the place, and it clearly wasn't making any money.
Yeah, wasn't a business venture, just an excuse to do his hobby to make some money.
Well, it's just it's hard to balance that hobby and business thing. You have to really compartmentalize. You have to really think about it. You have to have a real system. Like I have a real system for the way I do things at the store. And I play cards on Friday night, Magic the Gathering Commander. Mm-hmm. And then the rest of the time I'm at the store, I'm working, selling stuff, sorting stuff, pricing stuff. That's it. Full tilt, as hard as I can all the rest of the time. But Friday nights is my goof off night.
Oh, that's what you need. You need to have something, an outlet of some kind, especially.
Let's just say it's my fun thing, know, because there's going to be a fun thing. I mean, the store can't be all work. Otherwise, it's, working in the coal mine.
So was were the kid, like you mentioned you have children, were they into comics? Was that something that you got to instill in them, or did that pass them by?
No, my daughter really has done her own thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously they all dabbled with their stuff, but I didn't really go with her. But my son works for me full time at my Fredericton store, so obviously he got into it. He's
okay.
Awesome. More from the magic element of it. But still, he understands a lot of different products in that place. He plays a lot of different things, and he's just kind of by osmosis. He absorbed hobby stuff because they were in the store all the time. When they were born, they were in the store. Really, we were like, "There's the comic shop, and it's got a baby in it."
I always kind of wonder that if there's like an impetus for children to want to do the opposite. Like my friend used to make fun of me that all the time. Like he has kids since, but they're still quite young. I haven't had any, but he's always like, "If you ever had a kid someday," he's like, "Your kid would be like, screw you, Dad. I'm gonna go be on the football team." And it'd be like, just read this comic, please. No, I refuse. Something to that effect. So,
probably. I mean, they're definitely their own people. They're definitely not me.
Yeah,
but still, I mean, they've been affected by it to a certain degree. We got some things in common on it.
Well, there's on a genetic level, there must be something in there, right?
Yeah, for sure. Well, we all love movies. So.
Oh, really? That's something. Yeah, like you're a massive movie guy. In fact, I've seen a bit of your collection, and we chat about movies all the time. And I think we've swapped a few here and there. So, has it always been, even as a kid, like movies?
Yeah, I've been in movies for a long time, a long time, and I've been exploring the world of film. Mm-hmm. I've been using various different resources. I've got the 1001 movies list, and I did the IMDb top 250.
So you watched them all in the 1001? Because I've been thinking about doing that.
No, I've watched about 53% of them.
Wow.
It's tricky because there are some that are on the list because they're so horrible. How could this monstrosity have been made to put to film? And I'm like, I don't really
That's not a great reason.
Yeah, no, but I mean, some of them are. They're so extreme, like the most extreme example of whatever. And I'm like, okay, there's some torture movies that are on that list.
Like Sallow?
I'm not watching them. What's that?
Like Sallow?
Yeah, that's one of them.
Yeah, I have the Criterion for it. I'm kind of afraid to watch it.
No, I'm not gonna watch it.
Yeah, I mean, I know. I mean, I like movies. There are a few movies in like, because I'll if I find cheap Criterion somewhere, I'll pick them up.
Yeah,
because I do kind of like hold them in high regard, and I know, and I do trust when they pick stuff. Yeah. And I have hundreds of them now, but
for sure. Well, sometimes a movie has historical importance, even if you don't like it. It's like it's the first time this happened, the first time that happened, a particular combination of things, first time it was ever tried. You know,
I'm trying to limit, like, because I like schlocky 80s horror movies, and not even just 80s, but schlocky horror movies too. So like, it's funny because you're like me, you're all over the map, you just like everything. But like, I'm trying to limit myself to like not the ones where they really kill animals in them. Like just because I'm an animal dude, and like, those ones are out for me. But the extreme torture ones, like even ones that are kind of on the cusp of that, like a Serbian film and those weird ones, Sallow. Even The Night Porter is one that's that I have, but I haven't watched it yet because I'm a little like, you know, like I want to, but I'm a little afraid what's awaiting for me. I'll probably like it because I do like that stuff generally, but it's just like some of them just seem like, well, there's some movies that seem. There's a podcast I really like that I think you probably would if you don't listen to it, called The Movies That Made Me. It's with Josh Olson, and he's a script writer. He wrote A History of Violence, most notably.
Okay, yeah.
And him and Joe Dante, the director, did Gremlins and Inner Space and Matinee and a bunch of my favorite movies. They have people on the show, and they just talk about either the movies that inspired them, or like say if somebody's really into a certain type of movie. Like I think Eli Roth went on and talked about like 80s Disney live action movies, like the Computer Wore Tennis Shoes, and you know, no, I think Bobcat Goldthwait did that one, like the, you know, those sort of movies. So like they'll do stuff like that. But they often talk about some of these movies as some of them feel like eating your vegetables. Like you may not enjoy it, but it's a movie you have to watch because you need to eat your vegetables, right? So a few of them do kind of feel that way, but I still want to, you know, just get it all in and watch as much as possible.
Yeah, some of them. Yeah, for sure. What I'm doing now, I'm trying to do is I'm on the IMDb site all the time, and if I'm thinking about buying a new movie, I can look at it, and if the rating is below, say 7.5, I just don't bother.
Really?
Because my to be watched list is 717 movies. I got that many lined up to be watched, and that's like years worth already. So I figured to be added on that list, you better be darn good.
Yeah,
that's the criteria I'm using now.
That's a good point. I don't know if you can see this, but this is just the shelf I have that spins, and that's full. I got a big one full of Criterions. I got another one full of Arrow and Shout Factory and those sort of ones.
Nice.
So I feel the same way. I feel like what I need to do is get a dice or something that's like a 3-sided dice just for each rack, and throw it, and then just take the next one in sequence that I have in order and just go through them that way.
You know how I'm watching mine? Rigidly and disciplined. I've got them, my watch list. I've got every single one of the ones I'm going to watch on a watch list on IMDb. And I sort them by rating from highest to lowest, and I'm watching the lowest ones.
Wow.
It forces me to watch them.
Are you just going to end with Citizen Kane? Is that it?
No, the top movie right now is, I think, Parasite.
Really?
So, good way to end.
Have you not seen Parasite?
No.
Oh, it's fantastic. I'm excited for you to watch it.
Yeah, I was just saying, the thing about this is I'm at 7.0 right now, which is fine movies. You know, some pretty good movies. Frequently a movie's rated 7 if it's an excellent movie with a small problem, like a slight one miscast actor, or, you know, like I just watched one that came out right on 9/11, and they had to delay it for a year, and they had script problems because it portrayed a kind of violence that they didn't think the public wanted to see at that point. So it's rated 7.0 because the timing was terrible.
But what movie is that?
I'm jumping. I don't remember.
No worries.
I can tell you, I get them all rated here.
So you're just sticking through the 7s, and then on your way up to the 10. Is there any 10s in the list?
Yeah.
I would say would be 10. I feel like
it was The Quiet American, which was.
Oh, wasn't that was that a Clooney movie, or am I thinking of a different one?
Yeah. It's a Michael Caine.
Oh yes, okay.
Was and it's really quite good. It was interesting, but it portrayed Americans as the interfering bad guys right before the Gulf War was about to start. So they said, no, we can't be the bad guys in the movie. So they just hit it.
Really?
I watched a couple of movies before that I really liked.
Mm-hmm.
I watched one called 45 Years, which I thought was brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Not the Stan Rogers.
I
didn't know they made a movie out of that song. It's one of my favorites.
No. It's neat. It's about a couple who are about to celebrate their 45th anniversary, and he gets a letter from Switzerland saying that his former girlfriend, who died in an accident decades and decades and decades ago, her body had been found, and it explores the impact that has on them as a couple.
I've heard of this.
It's really
heard of this. Yeah, I totally heard of this. That sounds awesome.
The movie I watched before that was really good. It's called Get Low.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've heard of that one.
It
is about a hermit who has been out of the public eye for 38 years, gets drawn back in and decides to have a funeral for himself. And he invites everybody who has a story to tell about him, because he's got a terrible, terrible reputation. He says, I want everybody to get up and tell their story so everybody knows the truth about me. And it's
only 2009. This is an old movie.
It's really good.
Robert Duvall.
It's only, I don't know why it's rated 7.0. It's pretty slow.
Really?
But the acting is phenomenal.
It looks like something that would be directed by what's his face? Alexander Payne, is that his name? The guy that did like About Schmidt and some of those movies. It seems like that kind of thing.
Probably a similar. It's kind of like a Coen Brothers without violence in it. Yeah, because it's got that same love of rustic territories and really rich characterization. I mean, the acting is just awesome. I mean, Bill Murray is great, and he's understated, but he's just perfect for the role.
I like him when he's understated. Lost in Translation, Bill Murray is the sweet spot for me. That's it's
got Sissy Spacek is in there. She's just great in everything ever.
Oh
ever
yeah,
have.
Fantastic. Oh, super.
Totally great actress. And Duvall, you wouldn't even recognize him. Like, honestly, he is so in character.
It's very cool. Comedian.
Anyhow, I like it a lot.
Well, we got to chat movies more often, because I would like everything you just mentioned sounds fantastic to me, and I got to get on board for that for sure.
I'm into some pretty weird territory for movie watching, because like I said, I've been vacuuming in collections, and just keep sifting through them and picking out the ones that I think look interesting.
I've been kind of going down a noir pocket lately.
I've got lots of those, lots and lots and lots.
I just watched the Detour not too long ago, which is like yeah. Did you watch that one?
Oh, I believe so. I'm trying
it's
to
only
remember.
it's the one where the guy picks up the hitchhiking woman. He finds a dead guy in the road and takes his car, and then this hitchhiking woman that knows the car and blackmails him, and then he goes down a deep rabbit hole. It's only like an hour long.
Yeah. No, I watched that a few weeks ago. It's really good.
Yeah, the woman in it is like horrible. Like, the actress that plays her does an incredibly good job of making nothing redeemable about her whatsoever.
Yep.
It's an amazingly fun little piece of noir, and it's cool that like you're with Criterion and some of these other outlets now, they have streaming channels and whatever. I know you're
doing a big noir event right now, aren't they? They got something going on.
I don't have the streaming service yet. I wanted to get it someday, but I feel like I have so many movies I need to watch that are just sitting on my shelf.
A gem I watched a little while ago is The Foreigner with Jackie Chan. His comeback movie.
I love that movie.
Really, really good.
Yeah, that's the one with the IRA, Pierce Brosnan thing. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he is so good in that.
Yeah.
So good. I mean, it took me a while to figure out who it was. It's like, I know this guy from somewhere, but no, he was in character.
Yeah,
completely. And then the twist at the end was just delicious.
Yeah, it's really good movie.
Awesome. I don't know if there's any other. Oh, there's another one that I spotted that I really like. I'm pointing out the ones that I thought were exceptional. So I watched a lot of them. I'm like, like you were saying earlier, this was necessary. Let's move on.
Yeah.
One that I really liked was Copland.
The old
intriguing. I watched it at almost exactly the same time that Roy Liotta passed away. So he was very much on my mind. And I watched this movie and I'm like, there he is. That's the real deal. That's him.
That seemed like, I know Stallone got to start with Rocky, but he just did all these kind of action things for such a while. It seemed like that was him trying to do like a series, because he gained a bunch of weight and got fat and got like a weird nose, and like he just did all this stuff to be a character actor, and it kind of flopped. But from what I understood, it was actually a really good movie.
really good. His acting is terrific in it.
Yeah.
He just you believe him all the way through it. You're like,
yeah, that's the problem. Hollywood won't buy
really,
that. I mean,
Yeah.
people will, fans will, for the most part, or at least film enthusiasts will, that can understand a various film, but
Yeah.
a varied film rather. But you know,
Yeah.
Hollywood
And the supporting staff
as it will.
was killer. What a great, I mean, the whole thing. That's quality right across the board.
Oh man,
Really good.
So what's next for the store? Anything else big coming up?
Oh, yeah. I guess we're going to talk comics again for a little bit.
Oh well, yeah.
That's all right.
I could talk movies all night, so
yeah, true. I suppose
you probably get back to your life at some point.
Anyhow, we bought a building in Moncton, and we are moving the Moncton store.
Oh, I saw this. That's fantastic. Where are you going to go into?
It's going to be St. George Street. Just a little ways over. It's actually really close to where the new arena is. Basically, you look at the arena, you go straight up. That's where we are. We're 3 blocks away from it, I believe.
Awesome.
And it's an area of Moncton that looks to be getting spruced up quite a bit. There's a lot of new apartment buildings around there and new retail development. And we wanted 2 things. We wanted more space, and we wanted to have a little bit more. Which is
amazing, because you have a lot of your store in Moncton is probably the biggest space comic store I've ever been in.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot bigger.
Yeah, that really, wow, that's amazing that you guys are doing that well. That's fantastic. I'm so happy.
Yeah, pretty excited. Well, I mean, another thing that's driving it, I mean, like I said, we wanted a bit control over it, because right now, I mean, as a retail renter, it's pretty hazardous time right now, because things are pretty aggressive. There's stores coming and going. There's buildings being bought and sold, and we're really only the end of the lease away from possible oblivion. So we wanted to eliminate that. So we bought a building so we can control what we want. If we want to put up a wall, we put up a wall. We want to take down a wall, take down a wall. If we want to stay there for 10 years, we stay there for 10 years. I like the location. I know the St. George is kind of a spotty street, but this part of it seems to be really quite nice.
Nice.
And I feel like it's on the upswing all around it. And we're gaining, I think, 1,500 more square feet.
Wow.
And we've got a huge, like the basement, which has required a lot of repair, but the basement is going to be where our double back issues are going to go, and we're going to be able to really warehouse shelf it. So we'll be able to finally get them all sorted, because it's been, I don't know if you've seen the storage place in the Moncton store, but it is really crammed, floor to ceiling stuff everywhere. It's really hard to find anything or get anything done. So they'll be able to expand and breathe a lot more. We're also adding a ton more room for the online operations, because our online web store for Magic cards is going great. We've added pop figures. They just went on to our website.
Oh wow!
And we've got an eBay store. We've got an Amazon store. We want to put more printed product, like more trade paperbacks and so on it. But we just needed space for our staff who are working on updating the online stores to just do their business comfortably, like with a nice little system, enough room to actually really get it done correctly. And it was too crowded beforehand. They were running into each other, so a lot of jobs just couldn't be done just because the logistics of moving the product around was just too awkward.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. I'm super happy to hear that.
Yeah, it's nice because we basically gutted the building. We get to put stuff where we want to put it. We get a bit more control over the layout.
So when do you plan on being open?
This September, I believe, is our plan.
Oh, wow.
We've been doing renovations, and the renovations are taking however long renovations take. Yeah. Once the move is on, we're going to do it in stages. We're going to move all the doubles, all the back, like any duplication and anything that supports stuff is going to go first. We're going to build basically a framework, and the very last stuff will be the point of sale, the stuff that's required for sales. So you'll be able to watch our regular Moncton store just shrink. It'll be like, that shelf's empty, that shelf's gone. Because I mean, we have to do it gradually. I mean, we couldn't just say like, okay, let's just move the whole store today. That's just not happening unless we've got like 100 staff.
It's ridiculous.
It's really full.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I'm super excited to see it. That's amazing.
Yeah. Me too. I can't wait. Every time I'm constantly contacting Remy over there saying, is it ready? Can we move anything yet? But things have to be lined up. The building has to be safe. The security system has to be up to date. The cameras have to be in place. The metal gates have to be on. We're not messing around. We're not taking any chances.
No, I don't blame you.
Gotta make the place like Fort Knox first.
That's perfect. Man. Well, thanks so much for being on, Jeff. It was really
it's been fun.
Yeah, 100%. I'll drop. Are you on the store on Sunday?
Yep, I can be.
All right, I'll be around. I'll drop.
Was you coming Which day is it?
All weekend, really. I got to wrestle Moncton on Friday, and then I'm going over Sunday to help a buddy.
Like this weekend coming up?
Yep. Then I'm going over.
cool.
I'm going over after, so I'll be at his place Saturday, and I think I'm doing a thing for him, just putting some decals up on a building for him, and then I think we're going golfing and doing some stuff. But Sunday I'm pretty wide open. I was just going to go to the beach before I left, but I'll definitely stop by.
All right, sounds good.
Awesome. Thanks, man. It's good talking to you.
Yep.
All
Thanks a lot.
Next time. All right. There it is, my conversation with Jeff Smith, a very sweet man and I highly suggest if you're in the area to go stop at his shop in Charlottetown. You won't be disappointed. Have a conversation with Jeff. He's a great guy. And you can talk about anything, really, under the sun. He knows a lot about a lot, especially when it comes to comics. And speaking with him kind of opened my eyes a little bit to some of the things that, speak to me as to why maybe I'm a collector. The organization of it, bringing order to chaos, that sort of thing. That really kind of explains maybe some of the impetus of my collecting bug. So, hearing Jeff speak about how it bit him and how he sees it opened a few things in me and made me recognize that in myself. So I learned a lot. It's a very, very cool event. All right, so coming up in 2 weeks' time on our next episode, we will be talking with Jim Rugg, who is a comic book creator. He created, most notably, Aphrodisiac, which is a fun blaxploitation independent comic. He worked on the Dark Horse comic The Guild, which was a spin-off of the popular web series. He's worked on quite a few books through Marvel. I believe he's done the Grand Design Hulk comic, which is very popular and getting a new release soon, as well as I think he worked on the X-Men one as well. So it's super, super excited to have Jim on the show. He is a podcaster too. He is one of the hosts of the Comics Kayfaber, which is a fun little series that talks about different, famous graphic novels and has people with himself and Ed Pisker, who I hope to have on the show someday as well, discussing the comics that have influenced them and the industry in general. So I'm very excited to talk to Jim. He will be here in 2 weeks' time, and I hope you will too. In the meantime, let me know if you think a Patreon's a good idea. Be sure to like and subscribe and rate. Rating is important. I don't think I've seen any ratings come through lately, but I'd love to see some. If you love the show, please go on whatever service you're on. I think the Apple one is fairly easy to get to rate the series, so do that. Let me know what you think, and also just reach out. Let me know if you're a fan of the show, what you like, what you don't like, what you'd like to see changed, and also tune into our other podcast, my other podcast with Davin Scalehorn, X-Rated, the X-Men Anime Review Show. That's also very fun as well, and you can find a link to that on my website too. But in the meantime, have a great summer, and for the next 2 weeks anyway. Stay safe and stay clean, if that applies to you. It doesn't apply to me as far as alcohol goes, that's for sure. But hey, I was recently in a play where I played a guy that ran a Narcotics Anonymous meeting, and for some reason that line just stuck in my head. So stay safe, stay clean, and have yourself a great time. In the meantime, we'll see you back here in 2 weeks. Catch you then.